adventure, drama, fantasy, and horror film called The Green Knight. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Gawain is woken up with a splash of water to his face by his lover, Essel. The two then hurry down the brothel as Essel tosses Gawain's clothes back to him. When another woman asks him if he's a knight, Gawain answers that he isn't yet. He tosses a silver coin for Essel, but she teasingly ignores him. Gawain lunges to catch her, but she evades him. Later, the two head to church along with most of the villagers. Afterward, he returns home and claims that he'd been at church all night. His mother doesn't believe him, as he reeks of alcohol. Gawain heads to his bed and cleans himself up. While getting dressed, he notices that his mother is not yet dressed for Christmas. She isn't interested in the Christmas feast, but encourages him to go by himself. Gawain heads to the feast at the round table, while his mother heads up a tower where other women await her. At the head of the round table sits King Arthur and Queen Guinevere. King Arthur asks his nephew Gawain to approach him, so he bows before them. Gawain explains that his mother wasn't feeling well, so King Arthur invites him to sit beside him. Gawain hesitates since it's not his place, but King Arthur encourages him to take the seat since its owner is away. King Arthur stresses that it's important to be with family, so he regrets that he hadn't come to know Gawain earlier. To learn more about his nephew, the king asks Gawain to tell him a tale about himself. However, Gawain claims he has no stories to tell, and Queen Guinevere adds that he doesn't have one to tell yet. As King Arthur thanks his guests for joining him, Gawain's mother performs a ritual in the tower and prepares a letter that's sealed in wax. She releases the letter, and it floats in mid-air before burning. From its ashes, a sprout suddenly grows. In the castle, the Green Knight rides inside. The Green Knight delivers the letter with a green wax seal to King Arthur, and the Queen opens it. The Queen reads it in a distorted voice. The letter invites the king into a game, where his bravest knight fights the Green Knight. If the king's knight wins, he will be rewarded with riches and glory, but he must also reunite with the Green Knight in the following year, and allow him to strike him the same way he'll be wounded. At the end of the letter, Queen Guinevere faints, and the letter burns. King Arthur asks his knights if any of them will challenge the Green Knight, and Gawain steps forward. King Arthur reminds Gawain that it's only a game, and lends him his sword, the Excalibur. Gawain steps inside the round table, but the Green Knight merely opens his arms to him. When Gawain urges him to make a move, the Green Knight simply lays down his axe, which grows moss on the floor. The Green Knight lowers his head, and Gawain paces as he gathers his courage before decapitating his opponent. Moments later, the headless Green Knight rises and collects its severed head. The head then reminds him that they must meet again in 1 year before leaving the castle. The castle falls silent when he leaves, until the guests suddenly applaud Gawain. With a grim face, Gawain returns the Excalibur to his uncle. Nearly a year later, Essel joins Gawain in bed. She teases him of the legend that he's become since the encounter. He spends the rest of his days leisurely, but when a drunkard calls his mother a witch, he beats him outside the bar. He returns home and finds his mother speaking with his uncle. King Arthur asks him what he plans to do when Christmas comes. Gawain still believes it was only a game, but the king reminds him that it's not yet complete. Gawain is skeptical that the Green Knight is waiting for him, but King Arthur urges him that he still must go. Gawain believes that he'll be marching to his death and that he's not meant for greatness. When winter comes, Gawain's mother and her handmaiden prepare a girdle for him while they pray. The church and the royal couple also offer him prayers and wishes of good luck. Essel tries to talk Gawain out of going, but he insists that he must since he made a covenant. Soon, Gawain prepares, and his mother gives him the green girdle, promising that he won't be harmed as long as he wears it. Gawain sets out on the journey alone. By nightfall, he sets up a campfire and finds one of the bells from Essel's wardrobe amongst his items. He remembers their last conversation when Essel asked him to make her his lady. Gawain hesitated in answering her, breaking her heart. The following day, Gawain reaches the aftermath of a battlefield where he meets a scavenger. The scavenger explains that all the knights died and were left with no one to bury them. He recounts that his two brothers joined the battle, though he hadn't found their bodies yet. The scavenger compliments the green axe he's carrying, the one he got from the Green Knight. Gawain explains that he's just passing through to get to the Green Chapel. The scavenger claims he knows about it and directs him to follow a stream to get there. The scavenger demands payment for giving him directions, so Gawain tosses him a coin. Gawain reaches the stream and collects water for his horse from it. Before reaching far from the stream, Gawain gets cornered by thieves. The scavenger arrives, revealing that he led him there as part of their plan. The scavenger takes his green girdle, before confessing that there wasn't a green chapel. The thieves tie Gawain while they loot his belongings. The scavenger plays with the green axe and rides away with his horse. Long after they're gone, Gawain imagines dying alone in the forest. Unwilling to let this be his fate, he crawls his way to his sword, which the thieves left behind. He wounds his hand while sawing off the ropes on his wrist. He then sets out to find the thieves, but night falls and he gets lost in the woods. Eventually, he finds an abandoned cottage. Hearing movement upstairs, he investigates, but sees nothing but an empty bed. Finding comfort in the dusty bed, Gawain falls asleep. Soon, a woman questions why he's in her bed. Startled, Gawain gets up and apologizes to the lady. He heads out, but the woman stops him and asks if her father sent him. Gawain clarifies that he just stumbled into her cottage and wishes to go home. After he confirms that he lost his way, the woman slowly floats towards him as she shares that she's lost something too. The woman introduces herself as Winifred and takes him to the nearby spring. She points to the water and asks him to retrieve her head. Confused, Gawain points out that her head is on her neck, but Winifred stresses that it's not. Winifred recounts that a lord attempted to violate her and decapitated her when she resisted. Before going, Gawain asks what he'll get in exchange, and Winifred is confused why he needs payment. Accepting nothing in return, he plunges into the spring and searches underwater. Suddenly, a red glow shines, and he hears Winifred and King Arthur calling to him. Soon, he spots the skull and retrieves it. When he surfaces, he finds a fox waiting for him instead of Winifred. Gawain returns to the cottage with the skull and finds Winifred's skeletal body on the bed. When he looks down at the skull, it transforms back to Winifred's head, with her flesh, skin, and hair. Winifred's head wakes up and tells him that the Green Knight is someone he knows. Carefully, Gawain picks up the head, which turns back into a fleshless skull, and reunites it with Winifred's body. As soon as he does, the sun comes up, and the Green Knight's axe appears in the room. After journeying a great distance on foot, Gawain hides in a cave and attempts to start a fire. He finds the fox entering the cave, and throws a rock at it to scare it away. However, the fox returns, so Gawain allows it to enter. The fox joins him as he sleeps, and follows him through his journey the next day. Later, he desperately eats some mushrooms and shares them with the fox. However, he soon vomits out the mushrooms and hallucinates green moss growing on his hand. Thunder roars as a storm brews, and he sees an eerie silhouette in the distance. Gawain continues the journey with the fox, and sees a giant emerging from behind a hill. He climbs the hill and sees more giants walking. He calls to them, and asks a giant to carry him. The giant reaches to Gawain, but pulls away when the fox growls. Gawain moves on in the opposite direction from where the giants are heading. It starts to rain at night, and Gawain collapses from fatigue. The fox urges him to move forward, and they discover a castle nearby. Gawain knocks on the castle doors and collapses inside. Someone welcomes him before he loses consciousness. The following day, Gawain wakes up to a lord sitting next to him. The lord knows him and assures him that he still has a few days. Hesitantly, Gawain kisses her on the cheek. She then insists on painting a portrait of him. Using a trick with light, the lady creates a portrait of him upside down while he's in the next room. While he's admiring the portrait, the lady notices Essel's bell that's hanging around his neck. When the lady asks if it's a token of love, he denies it. She snaps the string from his neck and takes the bell away. One day, the lord presents him with a deer he hunted as a gift. That evening, the lord promises to hunt in the forest every day and give Gawain the best of what he hunts. He asks Gawain to give him whatever he receives from his castle in exchange. Gawain wonders what he could get from the castle that doesn't already gain what he wishes to gain from his journey. Gawain insists that he wants the honor to become a true knight. In the morning, Gawain finds the lady watching him while he sleeps. The lady caresses him as she asks why he didn't go to her chambers the previous night. Gawain says that he couldn't, but admits that he wanted to. He stresses that it isn't right, and the lady asks if he believes in magic. She presents to him a green girdle, just like the one his mother made. She explains that it's sewn with enchantments that protect the one who's wearing it. She then lays with him on the bed, as she promises that he won't be harmed as long as he's wearing it. She tells him to take the girdle from her as she pleasures him. When he finishes, he takes the girdle from her waist, and the lady tells him that he's not a knight. Gawain hurries out of the castle, carrying the green axe. In the forest, the lord finds him, and Gawain claims that he's continuing his journey. The lord stops him and reminds him that Gawain must give him something. He then leans down and kisses Gawain in exchange for the lady's advances. The lord reveals that he captured the fox, then releases it before leaving. Gawain and the fox reach a foggy area bathed in an orange glow. He heads for a stream, but the fox blocks his way and snarls at him. Suddenly, the fox speaks, and warns him that he won't find a happy ending if he continues. The fox claims that the Green Knight is as wild as the animal, and any man would face the shame of retreating instead of facing him. The fox insists that Gawain returns home, but he swings his axe in response. The fox runs and leaves him. Alone, Gawain rows a boat along the stream until he reaches the abandoned chapel. Inside, he finds the Green Knight sleeping at the altar, so Gawain sets the axe down and waits. Gawain waits through the night until the Green Knight finally wakes up at dawn on Christmas Day. The Green Knight takes his axe and asks Gawain if he came to allow him to return the same blow he struck him with the previous year. Gawain hesitates but confirms that he has. The Green Knight tells him to kneel so they can complete their game, so Gawain does. The Green Knight raises his axe, but Gawain flinches. Gawain admits that he's afraid and asks for a moment to gather his courage. After a while, Gawain says he's ready, but still moves away when the Green Knight raises his axe. Gawain asks if there's anything more of their game, and the Green Knight says there's nothing else. For the third time, Gawain kneels, and the Green Knight raises his axe. At the last moment, Gawain runs in fear, apologizing to the Green Knight. He hurries outside and finds his horse waiting for him. Gawain rides his horse back home. His mother washes him while he's still wearing the girdle he retrieved from the lady. When Essel visits him, he makes love to her. Soon, the ailing King Arthur knights Gawain and hands Excalibur to him. Not long after, King Arthur passes away, and being his only male heir, Gawain is crowned as king. Essel soon gives birth to Gawain's son, but he has his knights take the baby away. They leave coins for Essel, who crawls in desperation to get her son back. Years later, Gawain marries a noblewoman. The new queen tries to remove his green girdle on their wedding night, but he stops her. Gawain wears the girdle, even after laying in bed with his new wife. As years go by, his kingdom is thrown into a war, where Gawain's son, who's grown up to be a knight, dies from his wounds. Gawain returns to his kingdom in mourning, but his people have grown to loathe him. He spots Essel in the crowd, who quietly mourns for her son. Eventually, the new queen bears another child for Gawain, but the war continues outside their castle. With their kingdom losing, Gawain and his family wait by their throne as their enemies rampage outside their walls. His queen takes their daughter away from the danger, and even his mother leaves him on his throne. The enemies arrive at the castle door, and finally, Gawain removes the girdle from under his clothes. As soon as it's removed, his head tumbles off his neck. Suddenly, Gawain finds himself back in the chapel. The Green Knight lifts the axe again, but Gawain stops him. Realizing what his cowardice may result in, he removes the girdle from his waist and tells the Green Knight that he's ready. The Green Knight caresses his face and calls him a brave knight. He smiles at him proudly and tells him, "Off with your head."